I spent 61 years performing a version of myself that never existed. That sentence right there is the most honest thing I have ever said out loud. And I am saying it now because I am 82 years old, and I have run out of reasons to keep pretending. My name is Russell Caldwell. I was an insurance adjuster for 38 years. I raised 2 kids. I buried a wife. And until very recently, I would have told you I lived a good life, a responsible life, a life anyone would be proud of. But pride is not the same thing as truth. And the truth is, the person most people knew as Russell Caldwell was a character I invented when I was 21 years old because the real one did not seem like enough. I kept the mask on. I kept it on so long I forgot there was a face underneath it. And the thing that finally cracked it open was not some big dramatic moment of enlightenment. It was standing in a hospital hallway at 3 a.m, holding a paper cup of coffee that had gone cold, realizing that the person I had been pretending to be for 6 decades would not know what to do next. But I did. The real me knew exactly what to do, and that terrified me more than anything. Before I tell you what happened that night, and before I tell you about my brother and the thing he said to me that I have heard in my sleep every night since he died, I need you to understand something. This is not a story about becoming a better person. This is a story about stopping. About the moment I finally stopped building a person who was never real and sat down with the one who was. I was taught, before I had words for it, that who you are matters less than who people think you are. My father was a quiet man, worked at a paper mill in upstate New York for 31 years. He never once talked about what he wanted, not once. What he talked about was what was expected, what a match and does, what a father provides, what people will say if you fall short. He did not say this with cruelty. He said it the way you would tell someone the sky is blue. It was simply how the world worked. So I learned early. I learned that the inside of you is a private matter, and the outside of you is what counts. I learned to read a room before I read a book. I learned to figure out what people needed me to be, and then I became that thing. At work, I was steady, dependable, the guy who never made a scene. At home, I was the provider, who came through the door at 5:45 with his tie loosened and his opinions tucked away. With friends, I was easy, agreeable, the one who never made things uncomfortable. I kept the mask on. I told myself it was fine. I told myself this is just what adults do. You grow up, you put away the messy parts, and you show up the way people need you to. I said yes to the promotion I did not want, because turning it down would have looked strange. I said no to the woodworking class my wife suggested because it seemed like something a serious man would not waste time on. I turned down a fishing trip with a college friend because the guys at the office might think I was not committed. I postponed every conversation that might reveal something too honest, too vulnerable, too real. I once sat through an entire dinner party laughing at jokes I found hollow, agreeing with opinions I did not hold, and complimenting a meal I could barely taste, because the performance was more important than the experience. That is what the mask does. It turns your life into something you watch from a slight distance, like you are attending your own existence as a guest. My wife Margaret would sometimes look at me across the kitchen table with this expression I could never quite decode. Not anger, not sadness, something closer to searching, like she was looking for someone behind my eyes and could not quite find him. She would say, "Russell, what are you thinking?" And I would say, "Nothing much," every time, nothing much, as if a human being could sit in a chair thinking nothing. I was thinking plenty. I was thinking that I hated my job, that I wished I had gone to trade school instead of sitting behind a desk adjusting other people's losses, that I wanted to drive somewhere with no destination and no return date. But none of that fit the character, so I said nothing much, and she stopped asking. I had a whole filing cabinet of reasons why it was safer to keep performing, and every year that cabinet got heavier, and the person underneath got quieter, until I could barely hear him at all. The call came on a Wednesday morning While I was ironing a shirt I did not need to iron. My daughter-in-law's voice on the other end, steady but tight, the way people sound when they are trying to hold something enormous inside a small sentence. She said, "Russell, Leonard collapsed this morning. They're saying it was a stroke. You need to come now." I remember the iron hissing on the board. I remember the kitchen window was open, and I could hear a neighbor's sprinkler going back and forth. I put the iron down. I did not turn it off. I drove 45 minutes to the hospital with both hands on the wheel and the radio off, and the only thought in my head was a sentence my brother had said to me 9 years earlier, sitting on his back porch with a glass of iced tea sweating in his hand. He looked at me with those pale eyes of his and said, "Russ, you know you're allowed to just be yourself, right?" I laughed. I actually laughed. I said something like, "What are you talking about, Len? I am myself." And he just looked at me, did not argue, did not push. Just looked at me the way you look at someone who is standing in the rain, insisting they are dry. He took a sip of his tea and changed the subject. That was Leonard. He said what he meant, and then he let you sit with it. He never forced anything. When I got to the hospital, my son was already in the hallway. He hugged me. His hands were shaking. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, that particular hospital hum that makes everything feel both urgent and frozen at the same time. A nurse walked us to a room that smelled like disinfectant and warm plastic, and there was Leonard, my older brother, 76 years old, eyes closed, machines beeping in that slow rhythm that tells you nothing and everything at the same time. His reading glasses were folded on the side table next to a crossword puzzle he had been working on that morning, half finished. The pen still had the cap off. He died 4 hours later without waking up. I was holding his hand. His fingers were thick and rough. He had hands like our father, too big for his body, built for work that wore you out by noon. I sat there after he was gone, still holding his hand, and the nurse came in and asked if I needed anything. I almost said, "I'm fine." The mask nearly went on, even in that moment. But instead I said, "No, I am not okay." It was the first honest thing I had said in longer than I could remember. My brother Leonard Hamill, he took our mother's maiden name after a falling out with our father that neither of them ever fully explained, was the kind of man most people would call unremarkable. He was a postal worker for 33 years, same route, same uniform, same whistle every morning while he tied his shoes, this tuneless little melody that drove our mother crazy and made his wife smile. He lived in the same house he bought at 29. He drove the same truck until the engine gave out, then bought another one just like it. He coached Little League for a decade, even though he did not have kids of his own, just because he liked being around them. He read the same 3 authors over and over. He ate lunch at the same diner every Saturday, and the waitress never had to ask what he wanted. People used to ask me quietly if Leonard was okay, like there was something wrong with a man who did not want more. I am ashamed to say that for most of my life, I thought they were right. I thought Leonard had settled. I thought he lacked ambition. I thought he was the brother who stayed small while I was the one building something. I wore suits. He wore a uniform. I had a title. On my desk, he had a route number. I performed my life like it was a stage play. Leonard just lived his. There was a woman on his mail route, an elderly widow named Dorothy Chen, who Leonard checked on every single delivery day for 11 years. She told me this at the funeral. She said Leonard would knock on her door, hand her the mail personally instead of leaving it in the box, and ask if she needed anything from the store. She said one winter, he noticed her porch light was out and came back the next morning with a new bulb and a stepladder. She never asked him to. He just noticed. That was Leonard. He noticed things because he was actually present in his own life, not performing in it. He had this way of being in a room that I could never quite name until after he was gone. He was just there, fully, completely there. When you talked to him, he listened like you were the only person on earth. When he laughed, it came from somewhere deep. When he said, "I love you," he looked you in the eye and meant every letter of it. There was no performance in Leonard. What you saw was what existed. He never built a version of himself for public consumption. He never curated. He never edited. He just was. I remember one Thanksgiving, maybe 15 years ago, my wife had gone to a lot of trouble with the table setting. Leonard showed up in his brown corduroy jacket, the same one he had worn for a decade, carrying a store-bought pie. My wife whispered to me, "Would it kill him to dress up?" And Leonard, who must have heard her, just smiled and said, "Margaret, this pie's from the place on Oak Street, the one you said you liked. I stood in line 40 minutes for it." She did not say another word about the jacket. That was the thing about Leonard. He did not defend himself. He did not perform. He simply offered what was real. And it was always enough. His wife Ellen had died 5 years before he did, and I watched something in those years that I did not understand at the time. Leonard grieved openly. He cried at the dinner table. He told people he missed her. He said, "I don't know what to do with my evenings anymore," to anyone who asked how he was, and some people who did not. My instinct was to tell him to hold it together, to grieve privately, to keep the mask on. But Leonard did not own a mask. And the strangest thing happened. People drew closer to him. Neighbors brought food. Old friends called. The Little League kids he used to coach, now grown men, showed up at his house to mow his lawn. His honesty was a magnet. My performance was a wall. At his funeral, I stood in the back row and listened to 7 different people speak about my brother. And here is the thing that broke me open. Every single one of them described the same man, the same Leonard, the postal worker who remembered every dog's name on his route, the coach who showed up early to chalk the lines himself, the neighbor who shoveled your driveway without being asked and never mentioned it. There was no gap between the Leonard they knew and the Leonard who existed. He was one person. Whole, consistent, real. I sat in my car after the service for a long time. The parking lot emptied out. Someone had left a small bouquet of daisies on the hood of Leonard's old truck, which was still parked in the church lot because nobody had moved it yet. And I thought about all the versions of Russell Caldwell that existed in different people's minds. The work Russell, the father Russell, the neighbor Russell, the friend Russell. None of them matched. None of them were complete. And none of them were really me. I had spent my entire adult life making sure no one ever saw the whole picture, because I was terrified that the whole picture was not enough. Standing at his grave, I understood something I had been running from for 61 years. Leonard was never the brother who settled. Leonard was the brother who was brave enough to be himself in a world that punishes you for it, and I was the coward who hid. I know what you are doing right now, because I did it for 6 decades. You are performing. Maybe not all the time, maybe not with everyone. But there is a version of you that you show the world, and there is a version of you that sits in the car alone after the meeting, or lies awake at 2 a.m, or stares at the bathroom mirror and feels distance between the face looking back and the person behind it. You are telling yourself that this is normal, that everyone does this, that it is just part of being a grown-up, part of being professional, part of keeping things together. I kept the mask on. I used that exact reasoning for 61 years. And I am telling you from the other side of it, it is not normal. It is survival. And survival is not the same as living. You are holding back the opinion you actually have in meetings because the room wants agreement. You are laughing at things that are not funny because silence feels dangerous. You are saying, "I'm fine," so often that the words have lost all meaning, even to you. You have a voice in your head that edits every sentence before it leaves your mouth, scanning for risk, checking for exposure, making sure nothing too real slips through. You do it so fast you do not even notice anymore. But it is exhausting you. That tiredness you feel at the end of the day. It is not just from working, it is from performing. You keep telling yourself you'll be more honest when the time is right, when the kids are older, when the mortgage is paid, when you get the next promotion and feel secure enough to relax. When things settle down, things do not settle down. They just keep moving, and one morning you are 82 years old and you realize the right time was every time, and you missed almost all of them. You have a friend you have not been fully honest with in years. You have a parent or a child who knows your schedule but not your heart. You have a partner who sleeps next to a version of you that is close enough to pass but not close enough to truly touch. And the loneliest feeling in the world is being surrounded by people who love someone you invented. I am not judging you. I am recognizing you. I am looking at you the way Leonard looked at me on that tea porch with iced tea in his hand and truth in his eyes, saying the thing nobody else would say. You're allowed to just be yourself. You always were. Here is what nobody tells you about pretending. It does not feel like pretending after a while. That is the trap. The mask becomes your face. You wear it so long that taking it off feels like losing yourself, when the truth is, you lost yourself the day you put it on. I spent decades not knowing what I actually wanted because I had trained myself to want what was expected. Someone would ask me, "What do you want, Russell?" And I would feel a kind of blank static in my chest, like a television tuned to a dead channel. I did not know. I genuinely did not know. The mask had eaten the face. And here is the deeper cut. The thing I wish someone had said to me at 30 or 40, instead of me discovering it at 81. The reason you keep the mask on is not because you are afraid people will reject the real you. It is because you are afraid the real you is someone you have never met. You have spent so long constructing this performance that the idea of stopping, of being still, of letting the silence fill in around who you actually are, that terrifies you. Because what if there is nothing there? What if the mask is all there is? I sat with that fear for a long time after Leonard died. Months. I would sit in his old recliner. My son brought it to my house because he thought I would want it, and I would try to think about who I was without the performance. And at first, there was nothing. Just silence. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of a clock and a kind of emptiness that felt like falling. I thought, maybe the people who perform are the lucky ones. Maybe the mask is mercy. Maybe it is better to be someone fictional and loved than someone real and alone. But I kept sitting. Leonard would have kept sitting. He would have waited it out with that same patience he brought to everything, the patience of a man who had nowhere more important to be than right here. And slowly, like a photograph developing in a dark room, something started to appear. I can tell you from the other side that fear is a liar. When I finally stopped, and I mean truly stopped performing, stopped curating, stopped editing myself for every room I walked into, I did not find nothing. I found a man who likes building things with his hands, a man who cries at music and is not embarrassed by it, a man who is funny in a quiet, sideways way he never let himself be because humor felt like a risk, a man who prefers silence to small talk and long walks to dinner parties. I found someone who had been waiting patiently for 61 years to be allowed to exist. The cost of the mask is not dramatic, it is quiet. It is the slow erosion of every relationship you have, because none of them are with the real you. My wife Margaret loved a man I invented. She was married to a character, and when she died 3 years ago, part of my grief was not just losing her. It was knowing she never fully knew me, that I never let her. I kept the mask on even with the person who deserved my whole face. She deserved my whole face, and I gave her a costume. You do not feel that kind of regret like a sharp pain. You feel it like weather. It just sits on you. It does not leave. There was a moment, about a year after Margaret passed, when I found a letter she had written me and never sent. It was tucked in the back of her nightstand drawer, folded into a small square. The handwriting was hers, that careful, slanted script she used for important things. She wrote, "Russell, sometimes I feel like I am living with someone I almost know. Like you are standing just behind a window and I can see your shape, but not your face. I love you, but I wish you would let me in." She never sent it. She never said it out loud. She carried that ache quietly, the way I carried mine. Two people in the same house, both hiding, both lonely, both waiting for the other one to go first. Nobody went first. And now she is gone. Research into end-of-life reflections has found, again and again, that the most common regret people carry is not about what they did. It is about who they were not brave enough to be. Not risks they did not take in the adventurous sense, but the risk of simply being honest, of saying what they meant, of showing up without armor, Studies on authenticity and well-being suggest that the gap between who you are and who you present yourself to be is one of the strongest predictors of chronic dissatisfaction. The wider the gap, the deeper the ache. I could have told those researchers that. I lived inside that gap for 6 decades. If you hear nothing else from me today, hear these. Stop saying, "I'm fine," when you are not fine. The words are a door you keep closing on the people trying to reach you. Stop performing competence in areas where you are struggling. Asking for help is not weakness. It is the first honest thing you can do. Stop postponing the conversation you are afraid to have. The discomfort of honesty lasts minutes. The weight of silence lasts years. Margaret's letter proved that to me. Stop editing yourself before you speak. Let one unfiltered thought out today. Just one. See what happens when you trust the room with something real. Start telling one person, just one, something true about yourself that you have never said out loud. It does not have to be dramatic. It just has to be real. Start paying attention to the moments when you feel the mask go on. You know the feeling, that tightening in your chest right before you become the version of yourself the room expects. Notice it, name it, and then, even once, choose not to put it on. Start asking yourself, at least once a day, is this what I actually think, or is this what I think I'm supposed to think? The distance between those two answers is the distance between you and your own life. Start treating your own honesty like it matters, because it is the only thing you have that no one can take from you, and it is the only thing that lets the people who love you actually find you. I am 82 years old, and for the first time in my life, I am not performing. I do not have a script for this part. I do not know how many years I have left. Could be 10, could be 2, could be 6 months. What I know is that every morning I wake up and I do not check the room before I decide who to be. I just am. It is the strangest, most frightening, most peaceful feeling I have ever known. I started building a birdhouse last week. Not because anyone asked me to, not because it serves any purpose. I just wanted to work with wood, feel the grain under my fingers, make something with my hands that has no audience and no performance attached to it. I sanded the edges for an hour and a half, and I was not thinking about anything except the shape of it. Leonard would have understood that completely. He would have pulled up a chair and watched without saying a word, and that would have been enough for both of us. I called my son yesterday for no reason. We talked for 40 minutes. I told him I was proud of him, and then I told him I was sorry. Sorry for all the years I modeled performance instead of presence. Sorry for teaching him, without ever saying it directly, that who you are is less important than who people see. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Dad, I think I do the same thing." That sentence hurt more than anything Leonard's death taught me, because it meant the mask gets passed down, it gets inherited. And the only way to break that chain is to take it off and let your children see your actual face. Leonard knew this. He knew it his whole life. He never wore the mask, and people thought he was simple for it. But he was the freest person I ever knew. He walked through the world with his whole self showing, and he was not afraid. I kept the mask on for 61 years because I thought it was protecting me. It was not protecting me. It was burying me. And the gravestone would have read the name of a man who never existed. I want to ask you one question, and I want you to answer it honestly, not for me, but for yourself. Who are you when no one is watching? And why are you not that person all the time? If this found you at the right moment, sit with that question. Do not rush past it. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone you can see wearing their own mask, performing their own version, slowly disappearing behind it, send this to them, not with a lecture, just with a, "This made me think of you." Sometimes that is enough. Subscribe if you want to keep hearing from someone who has nothing left to sell you and no reason to lie. Like this if it made you feel something you have been avoiding. And share it if you believe, like I do now, that the bravest thing a person can do is stop pretending. I spent 61 years performing a version of myself that never existed. I am not performing anymore. And the person I found underneath was worth the wait.